My superpower is engineering. I've been a roboticist almost all my life now. I think engineering is just as creative as the arts. Engineers, we solve problems. It impacts the world. It makes a difference. Without IEEE, I don't think I would have the network that I have. Anyone can get involved with IEEE USA at any time. There's an immense amount of value for anyone at any career stage.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to today's IEEE USA Livestream webinar, Out of the Maze. I'm your host, Jonathan Cho. IEEE USA's goal is to create programming that's valuable, relevant, and of interest to you. We'll be sending a short survey to all registrants after this event and would love your feedback. We value your opinions and would appreciate it if you could take a few minutes and share your thoughts. Our presenter for today's webinar is IEEE member and IEEE Houston and South Area Chair, Christopher Sanderson, who returns to us picking up where our webinar, Who Moved My Cheese, left off. If you haven't watched Who Moved My Cheese, we provided the link to it in the comments section. Christopher is a transformational leader and coach and a servant leader with a passion for organizational effectiveness and mentorship. He's also well known for his creative approach strategies and motivational teamwork approach, but I'll let him share more about that. Welcome back, Christopher.
Thanks, Jonathan. I really appreciate being here. I hope everyone's doing well. Again, this workshop is Out of the Maze. This is the follow-up series from the previous presentation, Who Moved My Cheese? And we're going to go a little bit more deeper into that. But this workshop is adapted from the book by Dr. Smithson Johnson. Attendees should have read the book by now in advance of the seminar to help bring a little bit more of a deeper understanding of the lessons that will be taught here today. Our seminar will consist of the book as well as discussions, activities, and that dives a little bit deeper into some of the stories of the characters. Reading the book is forehand is encouraged, but it's not necessarily required, but will give you a greater enhancement of the seminar and the experience here. Now, this particular seminar is actually brought to you between IEEE USA as well as Eaton iConnect Committee. With that being shared, I'm not sure if Brian Jackson is with us here. It doesn't sound like he is here, Jonathan, so I'm going to go ahead and proceed forward. But the Eaton iConnect community is a community for NSBE members, which reaches out across all diverse employees within the company here. Within the United States, we have several our leaders that are leading our efforts within the Eaton team, as well as our executives sponsors, as well as our Canadian, as well as our Eastern America's sponsors. So, the purpose of iConnect is to promote cultural awareness, racial equality and justice for all the chapters within the NSBE as well as the Eaton African American community. And so Eaton celebrates and embraces diversity and inclusion. And this is just a brief overview of some of the activities they've had over the past year or so. And so you can see that we've been very much involved in both national events and holidays, as well as different celebrations. And again, we make what matters work. So with that being said, there's no better time for you to have intelligent power from a management company such as Eaton. And we really do appreciate this opportunity here. Eaton has a number of different business units, both in the electrical as well as the industrial space. And we believe in giving back to the communities where we operate, as well as are committed to the advancement of inclusion, diversity, and equality inside our company and in society. So let's talk about Who Moved My Cheese, as well as Out of the Maze. So 20 years ago, Dr. Smithson Johnson gave us the story of the two mouse-sized characters, as well as two people trapped in a maze. Who Moved My Cheese swept the world, and it's the powerful and useful wisdoms about fear and change. Now, after 28 million copies being sold, Dr. Smithson Johnson finally returned to this most beloved characters. This stunning sequel will help you unlock the riddle in whatever maze that you may be finding yourself in. So, just a little bit more about Dr. Smithson Johnson. He is an American physician as well as an author. He is well known for his Value Tales series and children's book, and for his 1998 book, a self-help book, "Who Moved My Cheese." He we are now seeing new characters. He's a number one New York Times bestseller, and he actually passed away um, a couple of years ago, July the 3rd. So before he left us, he was able to give us this last book here. So a little bit of a disclaimer here. Who Moved My Cheese, as well as Out of the Maze, are copyrighted and trademark materials, and the rights of those authors and their companies, they are mentioned here for education purposes only. Please do not copy or save or reproduce this information. Although the seminar is considered a Cliff Notes discussion, we highly recommend that you purchase a book as well as read the book and share the book. Use the book to highlight the passages as well as make notes in the margins. That's the only way that you can gain deeper understanding. So, following is a letter from Dr. Smithson Johnson, composed in his final stages of his illness, showing just how much he really embraced the principle of this book, Out of the Maze. And if you bear with me, I'd like to go ahead and read a little bit about it. A letter to my tumor. Hello, tumor. I love you now. I used to fear you and fight you so that I could defeat you. Then I looked at my beliefs to see if they were more about what I loved or what I feared. Clearly, they were about what I feared. And I love you now. I have learned to love you, which seemed like a strange idea to me. How much richer would my life have become? Because while I was sick and I realized I could die soon, I have to become much more appreciative of a loving person and a closer to my family and friends with a great sense of purpose and accelerated my spirituality. So thank you. Thank you, Dr. Spencer Johnson. So I'm going to help facilitate this discussion. I do have some of my counterparts that will be joining me. One of them is Tony Trim, and we will give him an opportunity to introduce himself. But we have about four parts of this particular webinar that we're going to discuss. We're going to talk about the story behind Out of the Maze. We're also going to look at the seminar in Chicago, as well as we're going to talk about new beliefs. And the last part of it, we're going to have a discussion. And then at the end, or is it just the beginning? So let's start off with a little quote here. What are you afraid of? Is it never as bad as you imagine it? The fear you let build up in your mind is worse than the situation that actually exists. And that's a quote by Dr. Spencer Johnson from Who Moved My Cheese. Again, my name is Christopher Sanderson, and I'm here really just because I want to help change your life. The end, or is it another beginning? I won't take too much of a deep dive into my past, but again, I'm glad to be here. So before I go any further, I would like for Tony, could you please introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Tony Trim, solution architect, but most importantly, I'm a change enthusiast and lifetime learner. Throughout my career, I've pivoted several times, I've given up on what hasn't worked and found things that did work. So I think helping Chris out with this endeavor of teaching you guys about change and through the whole story of Who Moved My Cheese. I think it's going to be impactful and important because throughout my career I've seen individuals who feel stuck in a certain position, and it's mainly because they're just afraid to step out there and think that they can't change. But that's me. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tony. I really appreciate you sharing your thoughts there. I saw this quite some time ago, and I want to share it with you. Watch your thoughts, for they become your words. Watch your words, for they become your actions. Watch your actions, for they become your habits. Watch your habits, for they become your character. Watch your character, for it becomes your destiny. Another quick quote from Dr. Smithson Johnson. Integrity is telling myself the truth, and honesty is telling the truth to other people. So let's look at the story behind Out of the Maze. So this is going to be a quick survey. Jonathan, I'm going to need your help on this part. Just to recap for this particular discussion, or help frame it, if you will, who has had the opportunity to read the book, Who Moved My Cheese? If you could in the chat area, just click yes or no. And Jonathan will give it another 10 seconds or so. All right, Jonathan, what type of responses are you seeing out there?
Hi, Christopher. So we're getting a variety of answers. They're coming in right now, but we've got a number of people who are saying no, but we also do have some people who have read the book, who have said they have read the book. So for those who haven't read the book yet, definitely would recommend it. But yeah, we were getting both yes and no's.
Okay, that's good. That's good feedback. And again, we definitely encourage you to definitely read the book. There's nothing to me, in my opinion, there's nothing more fulfilling to have a book and being able to highlight in the margins and write notes in the margins and refer back to the different things I've been able to identify in those in any type of reading material that I have. And so we definitely encourage you to purchase the book. So I have another quick question then. Those probably going to get probably more no's than yeses. And that's just my Six Sigma hypothesis because a lot of people were not aware that there was a follow-up to Who Moved My Cheese. So who has read the book Out of the Maze? Please answer yes or no. And with that being said, take about another 10 seconds. And Jonathan, if you could help me out with what type of survey results you're seeing out there.
So for the most part, Christopher, it looks like most of the answers are no. We did have a couple people who said yes. So great to see that great to see that we do have audience members who have read the book.
Okay, well, good. Now, Tony, let me ask you this question. Have you had a chance to read Out of the Maze yet?
Well, Chris, yes, I have. And it almost seemed to me like it kind of changed the script a little bit, but it was a really good continuation because it kind of let you know that, your boy wasn't stuck in the maze forever.
Yes.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Good. Appreciate that, Tony. So let's continue on here. Again, so let's dive a little bit deeper into our discussion here today. Now, from the book, Who Moved My Cheese, it is a story of four characters that live in a maze. Two are mice named Sniff and Scurry, and two little people named HEM and HAW. As they travel throughout the maze looking for cheese, it becomes very clear that their journey isn't just to find food. It's quite a better understanding of human nature that lives within all of us. Now, for Out of the Maze, this book reveals that what could happen if the him in all of us participate or will discover how we can unlock the riddles of whatever maze that we're in or facing with hope, which is the other character that's introduced into this into the new book here. So, again, just more background information for you. And we briefly talked about it. It's 20 years later, and it's 28 million copies of the book that's been sold of our beloved classic, "Who Moved My Cheese." This is a stunning sequel to again unlock any type of maze that we're in. Um, some of y'all may or may not be familiar with the acronym VOCA, but we've had some definitely some challenging times here in reference to the pandemic, as well as business, as well as what's going on currently right now in the world with wars and stuff. So the book Out of the Maze follows him as well as his friend Hope as their journey to think outside the box and to find their way out of the maze. Now, beliefs are put in center in this fable. It's not only cheese that you can eat, but an apple will work as well. And when they are going through going through the maze and challenging each other's beliefs, they actually start discovering some things that that actually challenges certain beliefs. So, with that, we're going to keep on moving forward. I'm going to make sure that we've sent some additional information about VOCA and what it means. But again, let's continue to drive forward here. So throughout this presentation, I want y'all to keep an open mind. And if you have a pen and paper, I definitely encourage you to start putting together a little workbook journal, excuse me. I want you to take time to read the book if you have not read it. And if you have read it, reread it again. But better than that, share it with somebody. Now, I may be stepping out a little bit. I'm not sure how much it's going to cost me yet. But if you have not had the opportunity to read the book and you're very engaged, I'm going to ask for help from Jonathan and the rest of the team to help me monitor and see what's going on. I'll be happy to send a copy of either one of those books to a person who's steadily engaged in our conversation today. So, who was Sniff? Tony, help me out. Do you remember who Sniff was in the original Who Moved My Cheese?
Yeah, so it's interesting because their names kind of give you insight into what they do, right? Sniff is always, poking around, looking for new opportunities and new change, which I can identify. And then there's Scurry, who just takes blind action.
Ah.
Not worry about the consequences, but I'm just going to go for it.
Go for it. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, help me out a little bit more, Tony. So again, you highlighted that sniffs out change very early, and Scurry is the person who springs into action, which is correct. So to give some more in-depthness about who they are, mice are very simple thinkers. They use their instincts, and they're always aware of changes in their surroundings. When the environment changes, they change with it. So, Tony, help me out with HAW and HEM.
So HEM and HAW are actually they're the exact opposites almost, right? Mm-hmm. You have one who doesn't like, actually neither of them really like change, right? But what you see after reading the first book, is that one of them is, after a while they decide, okay, I'm just going to go off and give this a try, and they go through their trials and tribulations, and as everyone knows, they finally get to where they think they need to be. Whereas the other one just kind of sits there and waits and hopes that he doesn't have to change, like change doesn't have to affect him. But what we end up noticing is that regardless, no matter what area in life you're in, change is inevitable, and it's all about how you deal with it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thanks, Tony. I really appreciate that. So with HAW, who learns to adapt in time when he sees changes, and he sees that it can actually lead to something better. Him, on the other hand, just like you said earlier, Tony, is that one who denies the change as he fears it, that will lead to something even worse. So when we're looking at the characters of the book itself, we see that little people are complex thinkers. They use reason all the time. They're sometimes ignorant to the changes in the surroundings of areas that they're familiar with, and not necessarily prepared for the change, and did not necessarily change with the environment. And I think that we can look at the recent history from the pandemic to see some of that in our lives. So, who is Hope? Tony?
Hope. Hope is interesting. Hope is kind of, it almost seems like Hem's angel, right? So Hope comes in, and Hope, kind of, and I don't want to I don't want to do a spoiler alert, but I am. But Hope basically helps him to change his belief system.
Ooh.
And for those who haven't read it, that's gonna be a reoccurring theme in Out of the Maze, changing your belief system.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks, Tony. I really appreciate that. So hope brings beliefs of thinking outside of the maze. So just like you said, Tony, sometimes we need somebody to help challenge what we think or what we truly believe, and that's what hope is in reference to Out of the Maze. So again, just to recap, Out of the Maze, we'll follow both him and Hope on their journey by thinking outside the maze. Beliefs are put central into this particular fable. It's not only the cheese that you can eat, but an apple will work too. And when they have gone, you have to have new beliefs, or you have to choose new beliefs. So during their journey, we will learn the following particulars about their beliefs, as well as we'll watch what they do, and we'll see what part of themselves actually change or do not change. So let's get to the definition of a belief. A belief is a feeling or being sure that a person or a thing exists, or is true, or trustworthy. Beliefs in ghosts, beliefs in democracy, religion, faith. Something believed, it's my belief that our team really won. Tony, do you have some examples of what the definition of belief is for you?
Well, the thing about it is, I'm just going to give you a quick one that's probably going to resonate with everyone. So if you look at the mice and you look at the little people, there's one main difference that I noticed. I don't know if anyone else notices, is that the reason the mice are able to pivot so quickly is because they rely on their senses, not their beliefs. Whereas the little people rely on their beliefs, and that's what holds them back. So I don't know if that, kind of struck a chord with someone, but that's what I'm sharing. That's what I got.
I appreciate that, Tony. I really appreciate that. Jonathan, I'm gonna need your help here. I'm going to ask that same question with some of the people who are actually part of this particular seminar here. If you could write down what is your definition of beliefs, or what a belief is for you. So we're going to take just a few seconds there, and allow you to share your comments and your thoughts there, so that we can continue to work together as we're on this journey together. All right, Jonathan, do you have a couple examples of anyone that has shared their beliefs or a definition of their beliefs?
So, Christopher, I think our audience members are still putting in their answer or in their definitions in. So
Okay.
we'll give it just maybe about 10 minutes. We did get one answer. Julian says conviction is his
Ooh,
definition. We have audience member Perry who says something I know to be true without objective evidence.
ooh, interesting. That sounds like a Six Sigma person there.
And we also have another audience member. God put us here to be fruitful and multiply and enjoy and take care of the earth. And another user says, beliefs are my hypotheses.
Ooh, love it, love it. Really good feedback. Really good feedback. Well, I want y'all to continue to share with the rest of us, and as we continue throughout our journey here, I'm going to continue to ask questions and maybe challenging some beliefs. So, let's talk about culture and value beliefs. A company believes that their values are based on culture that defines who they are, both individually as well as an organization, and directs their everyday activities. So, culture can be defined as understanding or appreciating a person's culture, of a culture, I should say. Values is a person's principles or standards of behavior, one's judgment of what is important in life. Hmm. So, question here: the challenges of business during disruption of the pandemic fails to compare to our own personal tragedies. There was pre-COVID, which we had innovation, transformation, dominated by our strategies and priorities, and there's post-COVID, where our priorities will align with the challenges of the pandemic, as well as operational agility, alternative working environments, as well as an acceleration of investments in digital tools, which connect our colleagues as well as our customers. So I got this question for you, Tony. When you talk about digitization, I know that from an education standpoint, a lot of teachers who were not familiar with Zoom and WebEx and Teams and just go on down the line had to quickly adapt their traditional classroom environment, in-person environment, to a digital environment. Could you give me some thoughts about digitization and what it means and where you think that pathway is leading us towards?
So, Christopher, and Tony, apologies. So, Christopher, before Tony answers, just wanted to
Yeah.
let you know that we have Brian Jackson in the room as well now.
Okay.
So, just wanted to let you know.
Thank you, sir. I'm gonna ask Brian an even harder question here in just a moment. But again, Tony, could you share?
Well, okay. So here's the thing. So pre-COVID, post-COVID, one thing's that because my wife, she's an educator, so I saw this firsthand how the difficulties of incorporating digitalization into the classroom. First of all, some of the teachers were afraid of change.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, some of the students were afraid of change. And the most important factor here is a lot of the parents were definitely afraid of change because now there was this dynamic that you send your kid to school and then it's the teacher's responsibility. You deal with it. I got nothing to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then they're more involved because now their kid is there at home with them.
Mm-hmm.
And if their kid is not doing their work, whose fault is it? Is it the teacher's fault who's miles away at his or her machine, or is the parent's fault who's in the next room who's not checking up on their kid? So they got more insight into what teachers actually have to deal with, and they got to have more of appreciation. and frustration with the education system.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I think it's important for us to understand that I'm not necessarily trying to highlight any particular segment or group in reference to this example, but we had to adapt, we had to change, and so I think that's the most important thing. Did we embrace it? Were we a sniff? Were we a scurry? Were we a him? Or were we a haw when we refer back to those characters? And so I think that these are the same characters or challenges that we'll continue to face as we continue to move forward in life. Thanks, Tony. So, again, some questions here. What can be done better? So I want you to take a moment and ask what are some of your business or personal beliefs, and what can be done better. And then the follow-up question would be, how can you adapt to this change and be better, whether it's the next within the next crisis? And the person that I'm going to call on to help give us some feedback on that is going to be Mr. Brian Jackson. Brian, have you had a chance to gather your thoughts together to help answer these questions?
Yeah, Chris. I was trying to get off mute. So I guess I've always been an adaptive change person because I've worked for a multitude of companies, and I've switched and have learned how to, pivot into multiple different industries. So I've change is one of those things that goes without saying with me. So I think when the pandemic came, it was okay. So what do I need to do? How do I need to switch up my work assignment so I can be at home? Because I also have a special needs kid, so that brought on its own challenges in this situation. So it's how do I be more patient, because this transition is not going to be the same with my 20-year-old daughter as it is with my 8-year-old daughter. So in that vein, I think it's advantageous for those people to change, but I can understand the reluctance for change. So,
thanks, Brian. I really appreciate that. Now, the one other follow-up question I have to you, in reference to that change, what is one of your beliefs that had to change or adapt to the difference in the environment?
So one of my beliefs. So another background for me is I came from a 2-parent household that actually were both educators. So I saw the transition, like Tony was saying, him seeing it at home. So I saw what a traditional school teacher child environment looked like because I was that kid at home. But the belief that had to change is this teacher that is working through this situation is doing it for the first time. So any advantages that I have from all the different multitude of Zoom sessions that we ran and different things like that to help the teacher along her way went a long way to helping the overall class be able to to make that pivot into the curriculum and coursework that they had to do virtually.
Interesting. Very interesting. Thanks, Brian. I really appreciate you sharing there.
No problem.
Hey, Jonathan, do we have any other feedback from our audience out there?
Let's see. So, Christopher, we do have one response currently. So, viewer John says, "Work from home forced managers to judge performances instead of mere FaceTime."
Ooh, that's a good one. Hey, that's a really good one. Coming from a traditional office, if you will, and being able to spend the first 15, 30 minutes in the break room around a coffee pot, talking about what is taking place at the beginning of the week or what's going to take place at the end of the week. Uh, those coffee chats are gone. And now you really do have to manage your time a lot more effective. Uh, there's, the traditional hour lunch. I found myself working from home. I couldn't tell sometimes the difference between breakfast, lunch, and dinner because I found myself personally. I found myself up early in the mornings and working way into the afternoon and evenings. And I unfortunately or fortunately could not work from home from the standpoint I like my desk. I like when I lay something down that my son or daughter is not coming around saying, "Oh, Daddy, uh, I drew this beautiful picture." Son, that's the contract I've been working on for the past couple days. So I had to adjust and find myself a little office space with four walls and a desk so I can clearly think. And so I did not necessarily know the difference between, again, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And my wife would call me sometimes and say, "Hey, how you doing?" I said, "I'm doing pretty good." She said, "What'd you get for breakfast today?" I haven't had breakfast. She says, "Well, what'd you have for lunch?" "Oh, I haven't had lunch." So I felt myself actually working longer time, a lot longer. And I'm sure that from a work standpoint, I was productive, but it never, I'm not sure I could continue to be in that environment and be healthy, at least from a mental standpoint. Okay, so we're gonna keep driving forward here. So let's take the second part of the book here. Let's talk about the workshop in Chicago. So, if you remember back um, from the beginning of Who Moved My Cheese, begins with all of us here today talking about the book Out of the Maze, which we're sharing about our beliefs in life. And we started off with a summary of Out of the Maze, excuse me. In today's environment, things are not necessarily turning out like we planned. So we're having to be open and honest with our beliefs and our willingness for us to share and be honest. Actually, will help one another, not just ourselves. So, from a group discussion standpoint, here we go. What the heck? Who moved my cheese? And what are we going to do about it? So, that's going to be my discussion point. Tony, what the heck? Who moved our cheese? And what are we going to do about it?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I've been in oil and gas for like 16 years now, and right around 2000, late 2014, up until just the other day, oil and gas has kind of been in a downward spiral, and now it's kind of going back up. But when that happened, and especially when the prices went negative, and uh, a lot of us were thinking that, who moved our cheese and what we're going to do about it.
Absolutely.
So that was a whole industry right there.
And what did you do about it, Tony?
Let me tell you. So what I did is I went back to my old tried and true self, and I keep saying I'm a change enthusiast and lifetime learner. So I went ahead and picked up a second master's degree in artificial intelligence.
Oh,
so what that was able to do is with that change, the oil industry was no longer something that I had to be in. My skill set was able to transcend through any industry that was interested in digital transformation, artificial intelligence, machine learning, even robotics. So that's what I did.
Okay. Thanks, Tony. I really appreciate that. Hey, Jonathan, do we have anyone else that's actually want to share what they did about it?
Christopher, doesn't look like anyone sent any responses, but I'll let you know if we get any.
Sounds good. Appreciate it. We'll keep moving forward here. So I get the whole thing about, adapting to change, says Tony, who works for a oil and gas company. But that's easier said than done. So how exactly did you go about doing that, Tony?
Well, the key thing you said is that's easier said than done, and that sounds like a belief. So we're gonna toss that out of there, because one thing that you have to do is you don't believe in everything you think. And for those who read the book, you know that's one of the staples of Out of the Maze, right? And you also have to let go of what isn't working. Oil and gas wasn't working for me, but technology is the staple of our community. The staple of basically technology is what makes the world go round. It's given everybody the ability to have friends all over the world.
Ooh.
Exactly. So I just went full force into high tech.
Okay. And with that with technology, I think that business can be done all over the world, right? So you don't necessarily have to be in a office. You don't necessarily have to be in the US. You can be pretty much anywhere, anytime, almost 24/7 to a large degree.
Exactly. As a matter of fact, this morning I was building a software profile with one of my counterparts in Pune, India. So yeah, I'm global.
But you're still there in Texas, right there, Tony?
Actually, today I'm in California. I'm still global.
Okay, there you go. There you go. Okay. All right, thanks, Tony. I appreciate you sharing there. So sometimes it feels like I don't even recognize my life anymore, says Alex. The others laugh. Seriously, he said. So much is changing at once. I moved with the cheese if I could, but half the time I have no idea where the cheese even went. I think a lot of us can actually, sympathize with that. So, here are 9 beliefs that make life easier and success more likable. There is a way. Everyone is doing the best they can. Tony, help me out a little bit.
All right. So failure is a learning tool. That's my thing right there. I fail all the time, but I try to fail as quickly as possible. And I try to, instill that in my kids as well, because I have a 13-year-old daughter who's a perfectionist and a savant in her own right. So she's truly afraid to fail. So it's really difficult to instill that in her, but I do my best. Now my 9-year-old, he's all about the failure. He's all about the failure. Well, I guess I wasn't meant to do it. Let's try something else. So he's always pivoting. Like I asked him a long time ago, so what do you want to be when you grow up? He told me he wanted to be a kung fu master and a musician.
Okay.
So now I asked him the other day, he's like, I like putting things together. I might be an engineer, but I still want to be a musician too. So I'm kind of getting there. I'm wearing him down.
There you go. There you go. And I guess the engineering part would come from Dad, it seems like.
Maybe. I don't know. You never know. Nerd swag at its finest.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thanks, Tony. So just to finish out the rest of the discussions here. So let's number 4, I think, is I can do anything, but I can't do everything. Number 5, small improvements are enough. Number 6, I don't need to be the best. And number 7, so it will all be over someday. And the last one here, good things often take time. So those are some beliefs that some of us have used to make life a little bit easier or more successful. So let's ask this audience here. Can you think of 3 additional beliefs that make life easier or success more likely? We'll take just a minute for you to help answer that question. And Tony, I'm going to ask you to help lead this part of the discussion if you could for me, please. Okay?
No worries, Chris. So yeah, and I want everyone to, while they're answering this question, think about, beliefs that they have, or they currently had that really haven't withstood the test of time. For example, I never thought that I would be able to go to college. I really believed that, turns out I've been there a few times. I never thought that I would be, in a position to where, some consider me a subject matter expert, but currently at the moment I kind of am. So I'm feeling that. And there are different beliefs that you have about yourself that really, that when you believe it, you become it. So what you have to do is you have to challenge yourself to believe different things. There's nothing wrong with beliefs, but it's you need to choose. You need to create beliefs that lead you into where you want to go, right?
Okay.
So choose a new belief. There are no limits to what you can believe. Remember that. And most important thing, I know I said it already, is let go of what isn't working. I consider myself to be to kind of have a mercurial temperament. I'll have an idea, I'll look at it, I'll work with it, but I'm not stuck to it. So I'll have a belief, I'll look at it, I'll see if it checks out. If it doesn't check out, then I'll change to another one. And I think that is really the key to having a feasible belief system.
Okay. So let me ask this question here, Jonathan. Did we get any feedback from our audience so far?
Yes, we did, Christopher, and we got quite a few really great responses.
Okay.
One of our viewers, Connie, said, "Not dwelling on failures, accept them, analyze them for improvement, and move on." Audience member Devin, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, says optimism. Another viewer says, "You can't do it by yourself, so being quarantined as a hermit won't work." Another one of our viewers says, "Show up and stay in the game. Learn while you're
Ooh.
on the bench."
I like that one.
Robert says, "Trust in God." Audience member Julian says, "Optimism, transparency, and responsibility." Oh, and we're still getting a lot of really great responses. But those are the ones that we've got, or those are a few of the ones that we've gotten, Christopher. So lots of really great feedback. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Really do appreciate that. So let's continue to dive a little bit deeper here. So these are 10 negative beliefs that are holding us back. So we're going to go through these really quickly here. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm just going to highlight a couple of them. We're going to continue our discussion here. So I'm not good enough. I've lost my purpose. Wow. It's too late. And I'm alone in this. And number 10, I think it's a good one. Someone else is to blame for it. So with that being said, we should hopefully get some really good some feedback from the audience here on this particular one. Can you think of 3 additional negative beliefs that are holding you back? And I'm going to actually ask for a couple of my teammates here. Brian, are you still there? Doesn't sound like Brian is still with us. What about you, Tony? Can you add or share a negative belief that's held you back?
Well, this is kind of personal to me. And it's kind of been a stigma that I've had. If I kind of had this board on my shoulder for a long time, and it's like, because of the way I look, people don't believe that that I'm really a really intelligent guy, right? And I'll tell you this, and I'm not going to say any names. I'm not going to do anything like that, but I'm just going to say there was one time I helped develop a PCB board, and I was testing it in a lab a few years back, and I'm kind of a bigger guy, and another gentleman walked in, and he was like, I didn't know they let the work release program work in here. So that's one instance. Yeah. And then the second time, I designed an actuator system for a BOP, which is blowout preventer, and I was in another lab, and then the VP of this particular company walked by, looked in the glass because it was a clean room, and he was like, "When do we start hiring bouncers?" So that stuck with me. That made me think that because of the way I look, I will never get to where I want to be. Why would they make me a VP Why would they make me chief architect? Why, why? So, and it's kind of personal, but I know I'm not the only one who has, who's had some type of stigma about, based kind of on their appearance. And I hope that it resonates with someone and gives somebody the hope that, you know what, that's not the case. It's not about how you look. It's about how you act. It's about how you hold yourself. And it's about the contribution that you provide. And that's it.
And Tony, I wasn't laughing at you. I was actually laughing at the person having that thought and even willing to speak that in front of you like that. Again, I absolutely wholeheartedly agree with you. And it's sometimes challenging that people have the belief systems that they have based upon their perception of that person or the world. Okay. Jonathan, could you, do we have any feedback from our audience?
Absolutely. We've gotten a lot of great responses. Again, what some of our audience members have said, a common one that a few of our audience members have said is that they don't have enough time, as a negative belief.
Mm-hmm.
Or one audience member says, I'll get to it eventually. Or again, another one says, I don't have time to, or it's not my table. That person doesn't look like they need help. Definitely some common ones that I feel like looks like a lot of people, a common belief that a lot of people tend to have. We have this really great comment from one of our viewers. Circumstances can become circumchances.
Ooh,
Really nice one.
I like that one. That's a good one.
Thanks for your feedback, everyone.
Thanks, Jonathan. Really appreciate that. And again, thank the audience for definitely engaging in this conversation. I bet that some of you did not realize that you'll actually be participating versus just listening to a traditional seminar about our beliefs or about any particular book and not be engaged. So thank you for your feedback. It's greatly appreciated. So here we go. Let's talk about him. So him is the character in the story that we can relate to. Him is sitting back there in an empty house, alone and upset. Haw went out into the maze to find new cheese, and he went on with the change, and it worked out for him. So, again, this is the Cliff Notes version of Who Moved My Cheese. And again, if you have not had a chance to read the book, go back and read the book, and then you get the opportunity, read the follow-up book, Out of the Maze. So, after a few days, Haw showed up again with a small piece of new cheese that he offered some to him. Him didn't think that he would like the new cheese. It wasn't as it used to be. He wanted his own cheese back, his old cheese back, if you will. So we have to adapt to change quickly. The quicker you let go of old cheese, the sooner you can enjoy new cheese. Some of y'all maybe remember that from the book. So him expected more cheese to appear every day and he couldn't believe it when it didn't happen. So why didn't Hall come back? Was his first thought. He told himself, he is coming back. He'll be here any day now, and things will go back to normal. So, him's thoughts took him to a different direction. He forgot about me. He's hiding from me. He's doing this on purpose. How could my friend betray me like this? So him was so angry that he stopped and started shouting, "It's not fair. It's just not fair." Tony, I'm going to ask you a question real quick on this particular. Have you ever came across a situation personally in your life that you think things were not fair?
Yeah, I actually have come through several situations where I thought things weren't fair. But the thing about it is normally, that's you blaming a situation, blaming someone else. Things, it's not, about what happens to you. It's how you handle what happens to you.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks, Tony. Appreciate that.
No problem.
So let's talk about fear. So him forgot his anger and just thought about his friend and about the terrible things that might have happened to him. So what if Haw got lost? What if he isn't? What if he's been hurt or even worse? Why hasn't Haw come back? Why didn't I go with him? Why didn't I move with the cheese like my friend did? So him remembered the day when he held a chisel while Hall whacked it as with a hammer, as well as at the wall at Cheese Station C, looking for new cheese. Now him still expected more cheese to appear, and Hall to come back. Still no cheese, still no Hall. So I think this actually kind of sets up from a personality standpoint for us to take a deeper understanding between him and Hall. Now we talked about him. Him was willing to uh him was always challenging what was being seen. Hall adapted to the change and went out and did things a little bit differently. And so understand that as we continue on through our story here. So him had to do something. He could no longer stay and wait. He had to go into the maze and search for new cheese. So he laced up his old running shoes. The maze was a dangerous place, full of dark corners and blind alleys. But he knew he knew that it was up to him to find the cheese and survive on his own. And sometimes we come to that place in our lives where we have to stop looking at the challenge before us and walk through that challenge and embrace our fear. So what happens next? The fact of the matter is, you have to find more cheese. If you don't, you'll die. Now, the maze is a dangerous place, full of dark corners and blind alleys. So it's always up to you to do it and make it on your own. So the handwriting is always on the wall. Old beliefs do not lead you to new cheese. So let's take a moment here. We're going to be introduced to hope. So if you could, Tony, I'm going to give you the opportunity to read him, and I will read hope. How's that?
Oh, we get to act like it's Young and the Restless. Okay, let's do it. Come on.
Yes, sir. All right. So forgive me. You look hungry. And offered him a little red apple, or I should say, a little red not rock.
But I can't eat this. It isn't cheese.
Isn't what?
Cheese.
I never even seen cheese. So why did it take him to point his exhaustion before he began listening to what always been in front of him? Why did Hope feel compelled to help? Interesting questions. So, what was Fruit Station A, Tony?
Fruit Station A. Fruit Station A is where the apples are
at. Exactly. So what's the difference between Cheese Station C and Fruit Station A?
Fruit Station A, it's interesting because Cheese Station C, that's where, the story originates. It starts talking about how they have this multitude of cheese and it eventually dwindles down. Mm-hmm. And the same thing happens at Fruit Station A. They have this multitude of apples and it dwindles down.
Ooh. Similar parallels then.
Yeah, it's almost like the oil and gas industry being cyclical, but that's just me. Sorry.
All right, Tony, thanks for sharing there. All right, so let's continue our discussion here. That must weigh a lot.
It's not that bad. he didn't want to admit his tool bag was.
So why do you bring it with you every day?
It's for us to make holes in the wall.
Has that worked for you before? So what are we saying here, Tony?
It's interesting because he brings this tool that has absolutely no purpose, and he
Mm.
believes that it's going to help him out. And then she hits him with the question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you have this fantastic tool that you can't wait to use to put a hole in this wall, but hasn't worked before. And then that forces him to think back, like, nah, it hasn't.
Absolutely, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So we were talking about, we were looking at this. So him glanced over and saw her that she was looking at Hall's handwriting on the wall. Old beliefs do not lead to new cheese. Mm. So, what if we tried to try a new belief?
You don't try a belief. Your beliefs are just there.
But what if you decided to change one?
That's not how it works. Besides, I like my beliefs just the way they are. If I change them, who would I be?
So, what happened next to him's dream? In his dream, he saw himself back in his home of Cheese Station C. Something was different. There were bars on the windows. Looking at himself through those bars, he saw how unhappy he was. In his sleep, he cried a little more. So the next day, he wrote his own new thought on the wall next to Hall's. Again, Hall's note was, old beliefs do lead you to new cheese. Him said, a belief is a thought that I trust is true. So that's all the beliefs are, a thought. But look at how much power it holds. Why didn't he go with Hall to look for new cheese? Why? Why do you think that was, Tony? I'm not sure if you caught that question, Tony, but we're going to.
So I did hear the question. I was
Okay.
answering it, but I was on mute and I forgot what I said. So, but I'll tell you one thing. It was powerful. It was powerful.
Okay.
But no. So beliefs are incredibly powerful, right?
Mhm.
So there's an old saying, if you believe in yourself, you can accomplish anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you believe you can't do something, you can't do it.
You
And if
won't do it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can't do it. You won't do it. You won't even try.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's kind of what him was stuck with. He didn't believe that there was anything out there for him. He didn't believe that he was going to go out there and be successful. So he did what he knew how to do: stay there and be safe. But as he saw in the dream, it became his own personal prison.
So true. So true. Okay, so let's continue on here. So because Hall was looking at things differently and him couldn't see what Hall saw, his own thoughts had kept him from Cheese Station C because he trusted that they were true. Goes back to what you were sharing there, Tony. So between peaks, there are always going to be valleys. How you manage your valleys determines how soon you reach your next peak. And that's a quote by Dr. Spencer Johnson as well. So, again, in him's dream, he suddenly understood his dream. The bars on his window were old thoughts that prevented him from venturing out of the maze. His beliefs were holding him in prison. So, another thought holding him in prison was he thought back to the day he wrote his when he first woke up and he first saw Hope, and how she had held an apple for him to eat. At first, he was afraid to eat it, but ate it anyway. Tony, why did he eat that apple? Was he just hungry or on a diet? What was it?
Well, he ate it for a couple of reasons. Number one, I feel, is he was hungry, so he probably would have actually ate a rock if they'd have let him.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Number two is he realized that, at some point he had to try something else because what he was doing wasn't working and it was literally killing him. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And number three, in hope, just like in her name, it gave him hope that there was something else. Like there's a reason that he's following her around and taking all her advice. She's almost like that little voice that's internal to him, or actually internal to all of us.
All of us,
that gives us little nuggets that sometimes we ignore it, sometimes we listen to it.
That inner voice. Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. So, him thought back to what Hope was saying. What if he tried a new belief? He looked it up at his notes and he said, just made a drawing of apples around each one. Some beliefs can hold you down, and a belief is a thought that I trust is true. An old belief can hold you in prison. So, from a discussion standpoint, what beliefs are holding us in prison? Do we have any thoughts out there? We're going to take a few minutes and allow our audience to respond. And Jonathan, whenever you see a couple of interesting thoughts to share, please do that. But I have one belief that I will definitely share, is that a belief that things can only be done in person versus using all the new digitalization tools that are out there. That is definitely a belief that has held a lot of people back, and we've had to actually change the way the education is being taught or even doing business. Jonathan, did you get any feedback from our audience yet?
So I think they're still coming in, but we do have a couple responses, Christopher. One response, fear about change. Another one is ego,
Ooh,
which
I like that one.
these might have been responses to something you were talking about earlier with him and Hope, but I think these are very relevant, and I think they can apply to this question as well.
Absolutely. I like the one, the ego comment, and that is so true. You talk about the digitization aspect of things. I pride myself in understanding technology, but sometimes my daughter or son come into the room and teach me a thing or two about technology. No, Dad, they can't hear you. What do you mean they can't hear me? Because your stuff is on mute. I'm talking into the mic. What do you mean it's on mute? They can't hear you, Dad. You don't have it plugged in the right jack there. Oh, okay. So, what are beliefs that are uplifting to us? Tony, do you have a uplifting belief?
Well, so to me, going back to the other one, I think that something that holds you back is any belief that starts with "I can't."
Ooh, yes.
And any belief that starts with "I can" is going to take you in the right direction. So I'm just generalizing it overall, right?
Okay.
I can't learn this. I can't learn this. So that's how I look at it.
I have to agree with you there, Tony.
Remove all the "I can'ts" and you'll be just fine.
Absolutely agree.
Unless you say, "I can't fly on my own power with just my arms." Stick with that one. Stick with that one. Keep that one. I just want a disclaimer out there. I just want to put a disclaimer out there. That's all.
Thanks, Tony. I appreciate that. I was just thinking of something. I believe I can fly, but
Don't believe that. No.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
do that.
Yeah, don't do that. Thanks, Tony. Appreciate it. So, in the past, him did not like some of the challenges that challenges his beliefs. So he resisted the change in his mind and left offended when anyone suggested that he was thinking or saying might not be true. Ooh. So you can change your mind, you can change a new belief. So if you can change your mind, you can choose, choose a new belief. When you hear that, Tony, what comes to mind for you?
When I realized that I can finally do public speaking,
What?
I'm telling you, and actually up until 2012 or 13, I was deathly afraid of public speaking because growing up, I had a bit of a speech impediment, where I stuttered a lot, right? So in recent years, I've learned to slow down because my mind moves faster than my mouth, right? So in recent years, I learned to slow down my speech, and I realized one time when I was getting my MBA over at PV, calling out PV. Anyway, I did a speech or a presentation in front of the class, and it went well, and people actually raved about it. And I knew then that, I can do this. So then I joined Toastmasters, and I don't want to say I perfected it, but I became more comfortable with engaging with audiences. And now here I am, like Michael Strahan on GMD or GMA.
That's interesting, Tony. I would have never thought that would be a challenge for you in your past or current. But that's very interesting. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, I just knew I couldn't speak in public. I knew it. It was my belief. I cannot speak in public because I stutter. They're going to laugh at me, and they're not going to care what I have to say.
Thank you, sir. So this belief business could go only so far. After all, there were limits, right? He wrote the following: "What would you do if you believe it was possible?" What would you do if you believe it was possible? Now, Tony, do you find yourself writing a presidential speech for somebody, or speaking in front of a very large crowd, maybe a NSBE crowd or a IEEE crowd?
No, actually, what I would do is I would and this is me being lazy and not believing myself, is I would pursue a PhD in physics. Because growing up, I always wanted to be a nuclear physicist, but I never thought that I had the capacity, and then I didn't think I could do it. So if anything was possible, that's what I would do. I'd get a PhD in physics and build a flex capacitor and travel in time. Anyway, go ahead. That's just me, though.
You know what? I think they did a movie about that there, Tony.
Yeah. I don't know, Doc Brown, something along those lines, of DeLorean. I don't know. It's foggy at this point.
Okay. Thanks, Tony. So, from a Hope standpoint, so Hope showed up in a few hours afterwards. She finds him sitting up, polishing his running shoes, and humming to himself. There are no limits to what I can believe. There are no limits to what I can believe. So, him knew that he needed to do something completely different. He needed to change his mind and choose a new belief. So, from Hope, you said your cheese stopped showing up, like my apples did. Here's what I'm wondering before. When your cheese was still appearing fresh every day, where did it come from? Wow. Where did it come from? So, where did the cheese come from? He thought. Had he ever asked that question before? had HAW. He thought back, soaring through all the memories and times that they spent together looking for cheese, finding cheese, and enjoying cheese. They never even once asked themselves that question. I wonder what's outside the maze. So Tony, give me your thoughts on this particular part of the presentation.
Well, actually, this right here is the plot twist in the movie.
Mm.
Because as the reader, right, you just think that their whole life is in the maze,
Mm-hmm.
and the whole goal is okay to find a different place in the maze that has food. You never think of what if they go outside the maze? You don't even think that's possible. So when you hear that, it kind of changes the game for you, and you realize that again, his belief system was holding him back. And as long as your belief systems hold you back, you'll never get ahead.
I absolutely agree with you. I remember I was coming out the military and had just returned home, and was looking for jobs in the from my hometown, and decided to this is where I wanted to be. I wanted to be home, and all the jobs were not the most highly paid jobs, and so after a couple of weeks, my uncle asked me, he says, "Well, how's the job search coming?" And I said, "Well, it's coming all right, and there's a couple opportunities out there, but it's really low pay." And I said, "So for this one job opportunity I have is out in California." He said, "Oh," and so he's telling me about it. I was telling him about it, and he said, "Okay, so why are you still here?" And Tony had to, challenge my belief right then and there. I said, "Well, I want to be close to home. I've been in the military. I've been doing all this stuff." He says, "Well, home is always going to be home. There's nothing here for you." And it stopped me in my tracks. There's nothing here for me. And I used to hear the old saying is that you can never return, you can never come back home. And I didn't necessarily know what that meant. So those memories and those things, those experiences that we had as a child was during that time. And so when you come back home, they may not still be the same. And so I took the job to California, and I had to quickly learn, which was another belief that came to the forefront for me, is that when in Rome, do what the Romans do. And so I had to quickly adapt to the change here in California. And it was a different lifestyle, and coming from Texas and coming to California, and used to paying for a gallon of milk maybe $1.50. Come to California and it was $5. It's like, whoa. Even the milk is more expensive in California. But again, challenging those beliefs and thinking outside the maze, outside the box. So let's continue on here. So what's outside the maze? He shook his head in disbelief. There's nothing outside the maze. They looked at each other, and then they both busted out with the same words at the same time. A thought you trust is true. So you think about that. A thought you trust is true. So another belief is that it seemed that this might be the kind of belief that held him down rather than lift him up. So him shut his eyes and tried to imagine a place outside the maze. In his imagination, his thought, all he could see was the maze itself, just as he had always known it. The maze, after all, was all him knew. He had been him in all of his life. So, what if you just believed it first? Maybe then you'll see it. So he thought about that. If there really were no limits to what he could believe, then why not give it a try? He closed his eyes and again began to think, there is something amazing outside the maze. Kind of reminds me of the Matrix there a little bit. So, him opened his eyes and wrote another note. Sometimes you have to believe it before you can see it. So, Tony, give me your thoughts there on that one. Sometimes you have to believe it before you can see it.
Well, that's interesting because I think about that, and I think about it as if you don't know it's possible, if you don't think it's possible, then you'll never try it, you'll never see it, you'll never think about it, you'll never fathom it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I think from my perspective, that's what I see. Right.
Yep.
That's what I get out of it. So if you dream big, if you believe that you can do anything, then more of the world is open to you. But if you dream that you could only get, a job, in the gas station in your hometown, then that's all you're going to know. You're not going to see the big house in the suburbs. You're not going to do that. No.
Okay. Good. Now, I know we're coming up close to the second part of this of the half hour here, and so I'm going to try to move a little bit quicker than I have been here in the past. And so, forgive me for some of the parts that we'll probably just briefly discuss and keep on moving forward, or we can pick this up at a later date between the the Eaton iConnect team as well as the IEEE USA, because I think it's very important for us to have these discussions both with our audience as well as our participants here. So Tony, I'm not Tony, but Jonathan, I'm going to ask you to help me out a little bit in this, so that if we do get to that stopping point, that we're able to recommunicate with the rest of the audience members on a follow-up discussion on Out of the Maze. Okay. So, Hope asked, are you bringing a hammer and the chisel? Him looked down at his tools and said, I don't think so. Good. I don't think that it works to launch a new quest for old baggage with old baggage. So him wrote another little note. He said that you don't have to believe everything you think. So, with this being said, what happened next? Trying harder. Both Hope and him emerged into a brilliant light, so dazzling that the first thing they could see is a thing. They stood upright, blinking and inhaling the clean, fresh air, and him was speechless. He took a deep breath, put his hands in his pocket and closed his eyes and turned his face to the feel of the warmth. Tony, have you ever experienced anything like that? Is just sitting back and taking it all in and enjoying the warmth and the air and the smells and everything that's happening around you?
Yes, I have. And it hasn't been that literally. It's been more along the lines of, moving to a different position or a different role or to a different company where I feel valued, or I feel, valued more than I have felt anywhere else before. That right there gives you a certain type of calm and a certain type of feeling that, I'm here now. I'm feeling it. I'm enjoying this. The sun is shiny and bright today.
Absolutely agree. And so, Jonathan, I'm going to do this, if you don't mind, at this particular point, for those either our audience members or even just the team that's been assembled here. We allocated an hour and a half, and we're probably a little bit more than half to 3/4 through the presentation here. Would like to get some audience feedback. Should we continue to move forward, or should we schedule some time to finish our discussion here?
Hi, Christopher. So I believe it might be best for us to do this as a two-parter.
Okay.
We will want to be sensitive to our audience members, and based on our feedback, it seems like a lot of them are really engaged with its content, but we don't want to take too much out of their day. So make it easier for them to take in two parts instead of just one huge part. In the meantime, everyone, if you would like to uh, read Spencer Johnson's Out of the Maze, we've actually provided a link to a free audiobook version that you
Mhm.
can get off of Amazon. So, before we'll get feedback from our audience once we send out a feedback survey after this webinar. We definitely would like to hear from you all, and hear what you really liked about this first parter. And from there, we will update you all on a second parter. Sounds good, Christopher?
Sounds good for me. Tony, will you join me again?
Chris, I'll think about it. It just depends if you offer to feed me or not. We'll work for food. We'll travel for food. You know how I roll.
Hey, Tony, I tell you what, I will make sure to have some cheese and apples.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate that, Chris.
All right. Well, Christopher and Tony and Brian, I know that Brian had some audio issues today, but he was with us the entire time. I'd like to thank you all so much for joining us today and giving our audience insight on how they can unlock the riddle of whatever unlock the riddle of whatever mazes they may face and transform their lives. So definitely appreciate you all joining us today. And thank you to our audience for tuning in for your great questions, or great feedback. As mentioned in the beginning of the webinar, and just now, we will be sending a short survey to all registrants after this event. We would love your feedback regarding this webinar. Check back daily on our social media for future live stream updates, as well as updates on the next part of this webinar. And we hope you all have a great rest of your day.